Hi friends, today we are going to do our chapter review, and that's on pages 277 and 278. Now instead of counting today, we're going to start by talking about thermometers. And do you remember what a thermometer measures? It measures the temperature, right? And we talked about the type of thermometers that measure the temperature of outside. Now, what might a temperature or a thermometer like this with a tall tower of red tell us? What does that tell us about the weather outside? It's really hot. And what are some activities that we might do when it's really hot? We might go swimming, we might go to the beach, we might stay inside with the air conditioning. Exactly. So this kind of thermometer, when the tower is really tall, tells us that it is hot outside. What kind of weather do you think happens when the thermometer looks like this? When the red is really low? It's probably cold outside, you're right. And if it's cold, it might be raining, it could be snowing in some places. So this kind of thermometer shows us that it's really cold outside. Now, out of these two thermometers, the really tall one or the short one, or the hot and cold one, what kind of thermometer might you see if it's really sunny outside and we might be in our bathing suits? What kind of thermometer? The hot one, you're right. And if it's cloudy, or if it's snowy, or if everybody's in their jackets, we're going to see a cold thermometer. Would you rather be really hot or really cold? What would you rather be? I would rather be really cold. I love hot cocoa and blankies and sweaters. That's my favorite kind of weather. Now here I have two objects that I use almost every single day. And from these two objects, what are something that I could measure from these objects? What can I measure? I could measure their height, how tall they are. What else could I measure? I could measure their weight, how heavy they are. And I could also measure their width, how wide they are. So to measure how tall they are, how could I do that? How could I measure how tall they are? I could get a ruler and see, or I could put them right next to each other and see which one is taller. Which one is taller, do you think? My water bottle. And which one is shorter? My coffee mug, exactly. Now, what if I wanted to measure their weight? How could I do that? Do you remember? One way we could do that is with a scale. We could put it on a scale and it would tell us the number of how much it weighs. Or I could hold it in my hands. This one definitely feels heavier, for sure. This one not so much, but I'd want to be careful not to break it. So this one is heavier. And if this one is heavier, how do we describe this one? Lighter. It's lighter. It doesn't weigh as much. Now here I have two trains of my building blocks. Which one is shorter? The top or the bottom one? The top one is shorter. Which one is longer? The bottom one. It's longer. How much shorter is the top one than the bottom? How many blocks shorter? Well, this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the bottom one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I can line them up and I can count the extra ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. The short one is 4 blocks shorter than the long one. How much longer is the bottom one? 4 blocks. The same 4 blocks longer than the short one. And we can compare these two trains of blocks by lining them up on the edges and comparing the numbers of blocks. But do their lengths change if I move them a little bit? What happens if I put this one here? Did the top one become longer? Nope, it's still 6 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just moved it this way a little bit. What happens if I move it a little bit more? Is it longer now? Because they're on the same side. They're equal. Are they both 10 blocks? No. I still have 4 missing blocks over here. So this is how I can compare the lengths of my two trains. The top one is shorter and the bottom one is longer. Now with my same two trains of blocks, does their length change if I go like this? No, they're still 6 blocks long, right? 6 blocks and 10 blocks. Is the longer one still the longer one? You betcha. Exactly. Do you remember what direction we call this when we go up and down? We did our hand motions like this. Do you remember what direction that's called? Starts with a V. Vertical. Exactly. And do you remember what direction this is called? We did our hand motions like this. Horizontal. Good job. Horizontal. And when we measure the height, we're talking about how tall something is. And when we measure the width or length, we think about it in horizontal. Now turn to your math, page 277, and you'll see a spatula and a measuring cup, and then you'll also see a ladder and a bucket. And so today we're going to measure the lengths of some objects and the height of some objects. So for the first part, we need to measure each object, and then we need to see which one is longer. So first, we're going to measure the spatula. And what are we using on this page to measure the spatula? What are we using? We're using the blue blocks on your paper. So go ahead and we're going to count how many blocks long that spatula is. Go ahead and count by yourself and tell me the number. Did you get 7? You're right, so the spatula is 7 blocks long. Now we need to count how long the measuring glass is. So count those blocks on your paper. Did you get 5? You're right. So then the sentence on our page says the spatula is cubes longer than the measuring glass. So how many cubes longer is the spatula than the measuring glass? Now we can either write a number sentence and say 7 minus 5 equals, which means we're going to take 5 from 7. So we're going to cross out 5 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is left over. How many blocks do you have left over? 2. So the spatula is 2 cubes longer than the glass. Go ahead and try the next one on your own. Remember, this one is about height. So you're measuring the height of the ladder and the bucket, but you're doing the same thing. So when you measured the ladder, how many cubes tall is the ladder? What did you count? Did you count 8? You're right. So the ladder was 8 cubes tall. And then how tall was the bucket? 4 cubes. It was 4 cubes. And it says the bucket is how many cubes shorter than the ladder? So what could you do? Yes, you could see the extra. So remember, the ladder was 8 cubes tall. And the bucket was 4 cubes tall. So we can cross out 4 of these 8 cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4 next to our ladder. How many cubes do you have left? 4. So the bucket is 4 cubes shorter than the ladder. Now on the next page, you're looking to see which objects are the same length and the same height. So for the first one, it says circle the one the same length, and we're looking at the pencil. So we're trying to find another object that's the same length as the pencil. What's the first object next to it? It looks like a crayon. Does that crayon look like the same length as that pencil? No, so let's keep going. What about that glue stick? Does that look like the same length? Almost, it's really close. But what about that ruler? Does that look any closer? It looks like the same length to me. So we're going to circle the ruler because it's the same length as the pencil. The next one is asking for the height. Which object do you think is the same height as that little step stool? What do you think? There's the bucket, the table, and the big ladder. I think the table, so we're going to circle the table. Alright, that's it for today. Remember, you can pause the video at any time if you have any questions. I'll see you tomorrow, okay?